Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Now, Robert Davi is a Renaissance man. He's a multi-dimensional star, a winning, prolific actor. The beginning scene in Goonies, one of my all-time favorites. He's been in over 150 films. He's a screenwriter. He's a director. He's a producer. But what many may not know is this guy has a set of pipes you wouldn't believe. I mean, he is a saloon singer in the style of Old Blue Eyes himself, but he's also an outspoken American. I could go through his films, but you know them. I mean, he's the most famous of the Bond villains. He is also a good friend. I'm delighted to have my good friend, Robert Davi, join us today on the Roger Stone Show right here at 77 WABC Radio. Robert, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roger. And I grew up in Long Island, and I think I'm a year older than you. So I didn't have that car, but I listened to 77 ABC and Dan Ingram and Cousin Brucey all the time. We listened to that station when I was a kid growing up.
So let's talk about this because I think, as most of my listeners know, that I'm half Italian, that the name Stone was plucked out of thin air by some maybe not so kindly clerk at Ellis Island. And my real family name is Corbo. My people come from Sicily. You and I have broken bread, and I consider you a paisan. I find this, and we see it in New York City as well, where they're constantly talking about moving the statue in the city council of Christopher Columbus. I view this as an attempt to bury our heritage, to destroy the culture that Italian Americans have brought to this great nation. What say you?
Many of these things, and it's a big lie. It's a big lie, Roger, and I think this subject is so important because it encompasses many, many aspects to what is going on in society today. I have a lot of thoughts on the subject, and I'd like to start quickly just to reference people that in 2015, when Mount McKinley, the highest point in North America, was renamed by Obama to Mount Denali. Now, McKinley was a GOP guy. He opened up Alaska, instituted the gold standard, was against slavery. His family was against slavery. And they changed the name of McKinley. I wrote an article on Breitbart at that day and said, this is the first shot around the world. Now, I didn't know in 2020 they were going to start the statues. And I blame Pelosi, an Italian-American who's a traitor to the Italian-Americans. When those statues came down in Baltimore, where her dad was one time, D'Alessandro, the mayor of Baltimore, she says, well, people will do what people do. When Father Junipero Serra, a saint, when the Pope came in 2015, she went to that statue and prayed with the Pope. She's a hypocrite. And the statue came down, and she says, in San Francisco in 2020, and people will do what people do. She never defended one thing. So Christopher Columbus coming down in Baltimore and the revisionist, it starts also with education. Education has been hijacked, as we know. You know better than anyone, Roger. You know the lies the left is telling me. We live in 1984. That George Orwellian dystopian movie they should watch with John Hurt and Richard Burton, where they change language, they change history, they change everything to get control. And at one time, it was said that was a pro-communist movie, and that's why they didn't show it in America and stuff like this. But it's more than that. It's showing the exact idea of when freedom is attacked. And Columbus, I did the movie Christopher Columbus, The Discovery in 1992. That's when a big attack on Columbus started. The revisionists started to really wave a lot of issues about that and tell lies about Columbus. I went to Spain. We filmed in Spain, Malta, the Virgin Islands. Marlon Brando was in that film. And I did research with the historians that are custodians of the voyages what I found, my last name, like you, is Sicilian. It's Davi. Ellis Island kept Davi, but they took the accent over the I. When I did this film, they said to me, the experts, I played a character called Martin Pinzon. There are statues to him in Spain. They said, by the way, was there an accent over your name? I says, yes. My grandfather said they were from the town of Torrette, near Palermo. They said, I said, but they took it off at Ellis Island. But my grandfather told me that was yes. He says, well, there were Davis on all three voyages. All three voyages. They showed me the logs. Now, at that time, there was the uprising, the Moors. There was a lot of conflicting things happening in Spain at the time. So a lot of Sephardics, a lot of other people were taking voyages and going. Columbus never had a slave. Columbus was a very spiritual man. He was almost considered a brother. He was of the Franciscan style. He prayed daily, communicated daily, had communion daily. He did not, it's such a lie, what the left is telling us and what they've indoctrinated our kids with. It's such a lie. And if people really did the research, he wasn't a violent man. He did not institute slave trade. You know, I mean, it's stunning to me that the left can get away with these lies, with these manipulations in our textbooks, and they say nothing. And we do nothing. There should be a commission against this kind of revisionist history. Yes, you can have grievances and all of that stuff. But for that time, 500 years ago, 1492, how can you qualify a man based on 500 years when the Moors were the ones that were selling slaves? I mean,
you're absolutely right. Particularly when they'd rather give our school children pornography rather than history. It's an attempt to erase our culture. Oh, he displaced indigenous people. I guess that's the argument. Speaking for the Italian American Civil Rights League, Mike Crispy, who's a board member, said Tim Walz did nothing to stop the radical vandals from targeting, they announced that, by the way, the most prominent symbol of Italian American culture in what was a flagrant hate crime. The governor knew they were coming. He did nothing to protect the statue. And then after the statue was destroyed, Walz refused to replace the statue and said that the perpetrators had, quote unquote, legitimate grounds. The statue had been there since 1931. It is it's amazing what is happening in this country. Go ahead.
How can anyone look at this guy knowing that he took 30 trips to China? He has his honeymoon on the same day as Tiananmen Square. He took that date, the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and the same thing Bernie Sanders did in Moscow. He had his wedding date in Russia. So two guys, prominent. We have been infiltrated. There is truth and there is untruth. Freedom is to be able to say 2 and 2 equal 4. If that's granted, all else follows. We are in an uncharted era. 2 and 2 equals whatever you wish. So freedom is on life support. And they started with the youth years ago in these textbooks. And this guy is a dangerous person. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing because he seems like, a nice uncle from wherever he might be. And he will say anything, as Kamala Harris will say anything, to manipulate the minds. And I don't understand how people in New York and other places in this country can continue to vote this kind of betrayal in office, in public office.
It is interesting. Walz is quoted as saying one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness, which is quite extraordinary. Supports sanctuary cities and states. He delayed 3 days when the mayor of Minneapolis asked for the National Guard in the 2020, it was May 2020 riots. And then after the city burned, blamed the mayor, even though the mayor didn't have the statutory authority to call out the guard. He has required that all public men's rooms, including the boys' rooms in the public schools, have tampon dispensers. which is, I mean, he wants to stop fracking, phase out all fossil fuels. I mean, the guy is he is a taxer. He is, more importantly, as we'll learn from our next guest, J.R. Majewski, a U.S. Air Force veteran, he has very clearly lied not once, not twice, but repeatedly about his service to the country. Let's leave Mr. Walz behind for a moment and move to his running mate. We've got about 2 minutes before the break, and then we'll pick this up also on the other side. But Robert Davi, writing for Breitbart, a great piece, he says, "I've been an actor and director in Hollywood almost my entire life. It is a world of make-believe, not only on screen but off. There's nothing that makes executives more nervous than a first-time director with no experience. Someone in charge of an entire production who has never been in charge. But Hollywood has solved that problem over and over again by surrounding the first-timer with all the right people, from the cinematographer to the production designer to the writers, directors, and on and on. We all know Hollywood's involvement with the left. We all understand their goal. So what do they do with the political equivalent of a first-timer? That would be Kamala Harris, with no executive experience, an unlikability factor that's through the roof, and an inability to go improv, as you put it, or go off script. Not to mention a cackle that makes you want to cry. It's like fingerprints on a chalkboard. It's simple, you say. It's a rebrand. The cackle is simply one word. It's joy. You've already started to hear it. You will continue to hear it until November. Ignore her policies, ignore her background, ignore her record, ignore everything about her. Yes, they're going to tell us Kamala Harris is filled with joy. You go on to say, the rebrand is now complete. Throw in the immense value of teleprompters at every turn and a complicit media that doesn't push her to do any interviews or go off script, and you've got yourself a movie. I called it a psyop. I could not have written this better myself. From the point of view of politics, I see the exact same thing. They are reinventing her before our very eyes. God forbid that she may address an issue. I, Robert, do not think it will work. I think the American people want to feel like they know their president. They know Donald Trump, warts and all. They know him. This woman, they're going to try to hide her like they did Biden. I don't think that's going to work. With about a minute and a half here before we go to the break, and we'll pick it up on the other side. What say you?
Well, I say this. I call her also Joy Mala. It's Joy Mala. And I think they put this teacher, the high school teacher, and the coach to take her and start tutoring her. I think he's her tutor. He's her lefty tutor to go in there for talking points and everything else. I think there's part of that. I think it's a frightening aspect, because when I grew up, Roger, as you know, my family said, and our Christian Judeo values always say, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Lying is a sin. Lying is a sin in Christianity. I believe it's so in Judaism and perhaps other religions, but lying is a sin. And the ancient Romans had a thing called the calumny clause in ancient Rome. And if somebody lied against someone, they would have to then suffer the consequence of the false lie that they did on someone else. But that being said, Kamala Harris, it's a danger to our nation. And authenticity. Donald Trump is the first authentic politician we have ever had. And we've been crying for decades. I'm a little older than you, like a year, but for decades, people have been looking for the authentic politician, the authentic person. Here he is. And because he is authentic, because he doesn't make a couple of little missteps, as we all do in life, and because he's just putting it out there, he's not rehearsed and studied and hammered over like a cheap piece of tin to give it. He's absolutely transparent, and he stayed, as you know, because you've known him longer than anyone. He stayed on some of the same things. He may have made other issues changing, but He has stayed authentic his whole career. We have the inauthenticity. And what is astounding to me, Hollywood, you look for an authentic performance from an actor. You're able to see that. You're able to kind of say, I don't believe it. But they don't say it to her. They flock around it. It's astounding. It's 1984. It's 1984, that George Orwellian book where people have to say 2 + 2 = 5.
All right, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is the Roger Stone Show, and we'll be right back with actor, director, writer, but my all-time favorite saloon singer, Robert Davi. Don't go away.
Impact confirmed. The Slayer has been activated.
Demonic threat level increasing.
Hold the line!
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
id Software presents Doom: The Dark Ages. Available May 15th on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC. Pre-order now.
Rated M for mature.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
I'm Roger Stone, and we're back with Robert Davi, international multidimensional star, entertainer, an award-winning prolific actor with over 150 films under his belt, but also a screenwriter, director, producer, and one hell of a singer, a great jazz vocalist. I have to ask you a question, Robert, because I studied your biography before the show. It's only 28 pages. And it jumped out at me that you were cast opposite Frank Sinatra in the telefilm Contract on Cherry Street. So you actually worked with old Blue Eyes himself, the chairman of the board. So what was Frank Sinatra, in your experience, like?
Well, he became a friend from there. I was a young actor. He was so supportive of me. And I have an anecdote in terms of his sensitivity. You know, people won't say this, or in terms of his helping people that needed it quietly. They called him Mr. Anonymous for good acts he did. I hear these things that Trump did, and it's a very similar thing. Now, they may not have liked each other. I don't know the history of them. I know there was some issues with the management. And I know the family is a very left-wing family. But Trump would be Sinatra would be disgusted on the attack of the Columbus statue and what's happening in our border in America. I mean, he voted for Reagan. I think he was a fan of his campaign for Nixon. He changed from a left guy to a conservative guy. But he was very giving, very supportive. I knew him till he passed in 1998. I have a quick anecdote. I was working as a waiter in New York. I won't say the place. And I got fired. I went in one night, and the general manager said, "Oh, you didn't turn in all your checks," which I did. I was very fastidious. He said, "Look in your drawer where you keep your checks with it." I looked in, there was a check stuffed in there. The check was written incorrectly. It was all wrong. I brought it to him. I said, hey, this isn't my check. He says, I got to let you go. Now, I was doing very good tips there 3 nights a week. And I don't know if at that moment I was supposed to say, what will it cost to keep the job? I had to maybe pay him. I was just stunned. So I walk out of there. That put a fire under my my creative juices. And I wound up getting 3 months later co-starring with Sinatra in this special, and then brought me to Hollywood. Now, Harry Guardino was in the film. I told Harry Guardino this story. And about a month into filming, he says to me, hey, we're going to go to dinner with the old man. Come on. And we get in the limousine, and there was Martin Gables and Jilly Rizzo and a couple of other guys and Harry and myself. And we're driving up, and I'm thinking we're going to go to Patsy's on West 54th or the pizzeria in Harlem. And there's a U-turn, and they stop right in front of the restaurant I got fired from. I go into the restaurant. Of course, everybody I look at Sinatra. I look at Harry. They both have Cheshire Cat grins on their face. And Sinatra says, come on, let's go eat. We go into this place. Everyone turned white. The general manager was there. He turned different shades of white, almost fell out. And so one of the guys that was with us says, I'll be right back. He goes, comes back later and brings me an envelope. I go, what's this? He goes, that's for you. I go, what is it? I open it up. There's a check. He goes, it's your severance pay. The guy, Sinatra, hated injustice like that. And they liked me a lot. And when I had the scarring, he said to me, hey, I had scarring in my neck. He says, were you a forceps baby? I said, yes. He says, don't let those scars bother you. He says, and he showed me his on his neck. He says, I was a forceps baby. And being half Sicilian as he was part Genoa and part Sicilian. So he would really be upset that Columbus, being Genoese, was being disrespected. Anyway, he was a terrific person and very supportive over the years. He was close friends with Cubby Broccoli, who produced all the Bond films. And when it was Cubby had seen me in something, and Richard Maybaum, a film I had done, and they called me up the next day and said, we want you to be the Bond villain. Now, every agency and every big star wanted to be a Bond villain. And as it was going on, and Cubby wanted me anyway, but Frank, Cubby told Frank this, and Frank said, I'm going with the Italian kid. He's a great actor. And so Sinatra was very supportive over the years.
I actually got to meet him when he flew into Teterboro, was driven to Hoboken, New Jersey for a rally with Ronald and Nancy Reagan. Now, he had some longtime beef with the town fathers, I think over the naming of a street, but he had vowed never to return to Hoboken as long as he lived. But Nancy Reagan had persuaded him. I picked him up at Teterboro, had one guy with me, and we were driving him the entire way there. He bitched about it. I shouldn't have been here. I said I was never coming back. This was a mistake. Why am I doing this? He was extraordinarily crabby. But when I told him, he says, yeah, it's quite a nose you got on you for a guy named Stone. I said, well, Mr. Sinatra, my real family name is Corbo. He says, I knew I liked you, kid. Anyway, in the green room, as soon as Nancy Reagan came in the green room, he melted. He absolutely melted. He did his thing, and then, but the instant his remarks were over, he wanted to go back to Teterboro, but with one condition: we had to make a trip. We had to make a stop at Grimaldi's under the Brooklyn Bridge, so that Frank could take a couple of pizza pies on his private jet with him. He was a true gentleman, and yes, he had really been screwed over by the Kennedys. He was instrumental in John Kennedy's election. Bobby Kennedy didn't want him in the Kennedy entourage. The height of the insult was when Jack Kennedy went to Palm Springs. He stayed at the home of Bing Crosby, a Republican. Yeah. That was the beginning of the end for Frank.
Yeah, that was very upsetting to him, and but he liked loyalty, as we all do. You know what I mean? Paramount, but he did so much for JFK. Even the song "High Hopes," he had Sammy Kahn and Jimmy Van Heusen rewrite lyrics for "High Hopes" for Kennedy, and I have to tell you, since we're bringing that up, in Nancy Reagan, I'm in the Reagan film. I play a very small cameo of Leonid Brezhnev. I play Brezhnev. But the producers have also, they asked me, I recorded 2 Sinatra songs that they're going to, that's going to be in the film as well. I won't tell you which songs, but when you see the film, you'll see that.
This is the new film with Dennis Quaid, correct?
Dennis Quaid, yes.
Yeah, wow,
yes.
I'm really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm afraid we're just about out of time. I want to thank my good friend, Robert Davi, who is truly a Renaissance man, not just a great actor, not just a great vocalist, just a great entertainer, but a true patriot who understands that, there are those in the entertainment industry, particularly in Hollywood, who keep their political views hidden under a bushel for fear that it will hurt their career. But a man who tells you exactly what he thinks, fearless like Donald Trump in that same way. Robert Davi, thank you so much for joining us here on the Roger Stone
Thank you,
Show.
Roger. I appreciate it. Can I give one shameless plug for a film I feel is very important that I did that's on Amazon Prime? It's called Bardejov, Bardejov. It's currently on Prime, Amazon Prime for free. 1942, true story about the Holocaust. I play an Orthodox Jew who saves 300 girls from Auschwitz. It was produced by a man named Emil Fish, who was a Holocaust survivor, 88-year-old. It's a very powerful film, and it's gotten tremendous reviews, but it has not gotten the attention it should get. Because we did it before October 7th, of course, in Tel Aviv and Slovakia, because Bardejov is a Slovakian town. But it's a true story where this town bands together and they save girls. Most films in the Holocaust find non-Jews saving Jews. This town, because of this character I play, Raoul Lowy, I incite the town and we save these girls in a very clever, non-violent way. It's a very important film.
All right. Say the name of the film one more time.
Bardejov. Or some people say Bardejov. It's some people don't like the title because it's difficult, but it's a beautiful city. I've been there in Slovakia. Bardejov. Bardejov.
All right, there we have it. Robert Davi, thank you for joining us on The Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Here in America, work is in trouble. We've offshored our manufacturing, sent away good jobs, and lost so much ability to make things. American Giant is a company that's pushing back against this tide. They make high-quality clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, promo code STAPLE20.